Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. It's that time again. It's midweek, and I want you to play some Magic so that you can win 2 free Rare or Better ICRs. This week's midweek Magic, we're gonna shake out the couch cushions and just play with whatever we got in a little historic Pauper. One of the more budget-friendly options, as all you really need is commons, and the only thing that separates standard Pauper from a historic Pauper is a couple of wild cards that we've really already invested in for this budget year. So be sure to stay tuned and let's check out the deck list together. But before we get into all that, my crack research team has recently pointed out that we are the only channel doing consistent and timely midweek Magic content. And by crack team, of course, I mean one comment from someone who had nothing at all to do with this monkey image. So be sure to subscribe right here at the Planeswalker Stronghold for all of your future midweek Magic needs, because we will be bringing you a deck list or strategy every single week. Now, what were we talking about this week? Oh, yeah, right. All right, historic Pauper. As is often the case, I build these decks with budget players in mind. And you would think that would be really easy in something like Pauper because it's all commons. But I'm actually taking it a step further and building around archetypes and synergies that I know are supported by your new player experience. So even if you are watching this video on day one, and you're going to go into this Tuesday's midweek Magic event, I know you have the majority of these cards, and the ones that you don't have, you can probably work around and play some other things. Items like Charmed Stray, we're running 4 copies from your new player experience. Similarly, 4 copies of Impassioned Orator, also from your new player experience. We have things like Luminarch Veteran, which is a very easy card to have come by if you were in the Midnight Hunt cycle, and if not, well, it's a powerful card, but I wouldn't spend any wild cards on it. What I would do on the opposite end of the spectrum, since we are playing historic, one of the wild cards that I recommended for this budget year was a copy of Soul Warden. This makes your Life Gain Matters deck in historic just so much better. And even if this card does nothing else but draw removal, it is going to add value to your deck. Traveling Minister is, well, it's not one of the best commons, which is why we're only running 2, but it does fit very nicely into the synergy of this deck. And it is the sort of card that you're going to want in some other Life Gain Matters builds across a number of formats. Celestial Unicorn, we got this in our new player experience. I don't remember if it was 3 copies or 4 copies or whatever, but this card is just an absolute beast in this deck. Kindly Ancestor is another one of those. I hope you've had the ability to draft. A 2/3 with lifelink is pretty darn good, and the fact that you can disturb it and give one of your other creatures lifelink, like a Celestial Unicorn, for instance, that will not only gain you a crap ton of life in the long run, but now it procs itself for the +1/+1 counters every turn when it deals its own lifelink damage. Core Celebrant is a fantastic blocker to get you into that mid and late game. It also allows you to proc your life gain triggers and get another life, much like Soul Warden, whenever a creature comes into play on your side of the battlefield. Marauding Blight Priest is kind of one of the combo pieces in this deck. As you've seen, most of the cards in this are built around helping you gain life. When you get the Blight Priest in play, every time you gain a life or you gain life in any amount, your opponent loses a singular life. So that allows you to just start draining away your opponent, and that's something they have to deal with pretty quickly. Savage Gorger is an evasive flying 1/1 for 3, which is not a great rate. But the rest of that text box is a thing. At the beginning of your instep, and if an opponent lost life this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on the Savage Gorger. This is another one of those great targets for that Ancestor's Embrace, because he is probably going to get big. Best of all, you got 4 copies of this in your new player experience decks in your mono black build. So very, very nice. Don't forget, those cards are still historic playable. One of the wild cards that I suggested for this budget year was Faceless Agent. When it ETBs, seek a creature card of the most prevalent creature type in your library. For this deck, in most cases, that's going to be Cleric. So this essentially lets you put a 2/2 Cleric into play and replaces itself in your hand with another Cleric card. Pretty darn nice. One of the last cards in the deck, Heron of Hope, a 2/3 flyer. If you gain life, you gain that much life instead. It has the onboard ability to gain a life link when it's relevant, for just a 1 and a white. And yeah, an evasive flyer, particularly in Pauper, that gains you life, can be all you need to close out the game. And in fact, I have seen instances where in testing this, the opponent just scoops to this card on turn 4 because it's just making the board state that much harder to deal with, and they only have so much removal in a format like Pauper. As I said, we are running basic mana here, 12 plains, 7 swamps, and 4 copies of Scoured Barrens, which, as you may not know, also procs your life gain triggers. Just a fantastic card. If you don't have them for some reason, I'm running the M21s because that's what I have, because I haven't opened that much Kamigawa. You don't absolutely have to have this card, it's just sort of gravy.
What's that? You didn't catch all that? Well, Matt would like you to know that any deck list applicable to this video can be found down in the doobly-doo. And hey, let's not forget, the whole reason to participate in these totally free midweek Magic events is the prize support is awesome. You get a rare for your first and second win, and then you get a random cosmetic for your third. How awesome is that? Alright, so with all that having been said, don't forget, smash the like button like Hulk would. And of course, comment and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And one last thing, myself, I'm coming to you from America, and I have noticed that about 1/3 of my viewership is coming from the US, and about 1/3 is coming from various countries. And there's about 1/3 of my viewership that is just getting lumped into other. So to let me know you got to the end of the video, throw me a comment down in there and let me know where you are watching from.